Ngozi was dancing in the middle of a large crowd who had come to celebrate with her on her special day. It was the happiest day of her life. Her husband started to dance toward her. She spread out her arms to give him an embrace, but all of a sudden, the music stopped, and the young maiden dashed out from nowhere and held onto his hand, all the while shouting, "He is mine. You can't have him. You can never have him." Ngozi opened her mouth, calling out for someone to help stop the maiden. But as she did, no sound came out. It seemed like she suddenly lost her voice. She was screaming at the top of her lungs, but no one could hear her. One by one, the crowd dispersed. "Chimo!" She woke up with a start. "Not again," she cried. "Oh God, not again." Ngozi was 36 years old. She's been having these dreams since she was 18 years. Anytime she was approached by a suitor, when it starts getting serious and marriage plans were being made, she would have this dream. Then, out of nowhere, the suitor would back out and cancel the marriage. Ngozi was an only child. She came from a poor family. Her mother, Enyina, died when she was 28 years. Her desire was to see her only daughter get married, but that did not happen for her. Although she was from a poor family, she was very industrious and had managed to make a comfortable life for her father and herself. Ngozi was a hairdresser who was known throughout the village for her remarkable hairstyles. Every woman in Alocha wanted her hair made by her. At the early age of 18, her friends and age grades started to get married. One by one, they all went to live with their husband. She would attend their weddings and celebrate with them. But as soon as they moved into their husband's house, they would drop their friendship with her. The mothers would advise their daughters that it was not right for a married woman to befriend an unmarried woman. So, just like that, each time a friend got married, she would lose that friendship. They would still greet her whenever their paths crossed, of course, but their greetings were always cold and condescending. By the time Ngozi turned 30, almost every woman she knew in her age bracket had gotten married and had children. Often she would sit and wonder what the problem was. "Nnam, am I not beautiful enough? Why doesn't any man want to marry me?" Her 60 years old father would reply, "Nwa me mara mma. You are not a problem and nothing is wrong with you. You are a blessing, and any man who marries you is blessed too. Don't worry, my child. Your time will come." Those words of encouragement, wisdom, and prayers were like medicine to her soul. They would soothe her pains and worries. She hung on to them like her life depended on it. But some days, a new incident will throw her off balance and completely shatter her hopes and rekindle the doubt and the fear that she will end up an old hag no one wanted. Like the incident that happened after she turned 40. You see, Ngozi was a very nice person. Despite her life situation, her spirit remained unbroken. She maintained a warm attitude towards the same people who were condescending toward her. Her best friend Obiageli had gotten married 15 years ago, but didn't bear children until the 16th year of her marriage. She later gave birth to a baby girl. When the baby girl turned 1, she and her husband threw a birthday party to celebrate their daughter. They invited Ngozi amongst the other villagers. Out of all her friends, Obiageli and her husband remained cordial with her, unlike the others. Although their friendship was no longer like it used to be, because just like every other woman who got married, Obiageli had been advised by her mother too. When she got to the party, she greeted each person she met. But of course, Each of them replied with a condescending attitude. The women flaunted their children throughout the party, and those of them who sat around her spoke of their husbands and children non-stop. They made sure they were very loud. They spoke about how it was a blessing to be married and how terrible it would be to be lonely. Ngozi did her best to ignore them. Then Chito, one of the women that used to be friends with her, came along with her last baby and sat with them. She greeted Ngozi as usual and asked why she was at the party. Why did Obiageli invite you to this party when she knows it is a party for children and we are just here to accompany our children? I think that was very mean of her to rub it in your face. The other women started deliberating on the comment Chito made. Ngozi simply sat there and said nothing. By the time she was ready to leave, she took her gift to Obiageli, thanked her, and went home. On her way home, she met Eluka, Chito's husband. She greeted him and passed. He replied warmly, which was very unusual. Ehe, Omalicha, how are you doing today? I am well, thank you, said Ngozi. Omalicha, you look well, he laughed in a deceitful manner. Ehe, Omalicha, have you thought of what I discussed with you earlier? Eluka, what did you discuss with me? Please refresh my memory. I can't seem to remember, said Ngozi. Omalicha, see, I know that your bed is usually cold at night, but let me be the man who keeps you warm, oh? Eluka said, laughing deceitfully. Are you not ashamed of yourself? Eluka, are you not ashamed of yourself? So you think because I'm single, I would allow myself fall into the hands of a predator like you? Said Eluka. Predator kwa? Yes, that is exactly what you are, fired Ngozi. Please get out of my way, useless man. I don't know what Chito saw that made her agree to marry an animal like you. Omalicha, you are going too far. Please excuse me, said Ngozi as she walked away. For the past 2 years, a good number of the men who are married to some of the women she knew have been asking to sleep with her. It broke her heart to think that these men did not fancy her for marriage, but wanted only to bed her. Was there something about her men found unappealing? Something that repulsed them when they thought of marriage to her? She had complained and told her father about the dream. Her father had taken her to the seer, who had offered sacrifices and performed some cleansing rituals. The seer had said that Ngozi was married to the prince of the river. After the sacrifice was offered and the cleansing was done, 4 months later, Ngozi actually had a suitor. They courted for 2 months, but on the eve of their traditional wedding, the dream reoccurred. Amadi, her to-be husband, never showed up for their wedding. She had invited a lot of people, even those who stopped being friends with her. The villagers were expectant, and so was Ngozi, but her hopes had been shattered after the dream reoccurred. She had hoped that with offering sacrifices and performing the cleansing ritual, things would change, but that was not the case. The villagers went home that day and started a wild rumor that Ngozi was cursed and that the gods have set her apart for themselves. The incident broke Ngozi into a million pieces. Her business suffered too. Most of the women who she made their hair stopped visiting her salon. She lost a lot of customers. Even the children in the community made up a song about her based on the gossips they've heard from their mothers. Her father, Mazinduka, advised her to move to the neighboring village, Isiala, to live with his younger sister, Chinyere, who was a widow. Ngozi refused. She didn't care what the villagers said about her. Plus, she didn't want to leave her father all alone by himself. But she decided that she would go to Isiala every day for business, since she had lost all her customers in Alocha. So, every day she would go to the neighboring village to make hair. Before long, her clientele grew. The women of Isiala loved her handwork and patronized her. On some days, when she finished late and couldn't return home, she would spend the night with her aunt Chinyere. She met new people every day and made new friends. The people of Isiala were very welcoming, friendly, and respectful. Ngozi's spirit was lifted once more. Before long, she became well known in Isiala for her work. She made lots of money and hired hairdressers as her clientele grew. As her business thrived, she spent her weekdays in Isiala, and on weekends she would visit her father in Alocha. Years passed and Ngozi lived her life, content each day for her friends, her business, and her father. She had accepted her fate, that it was not in her destiny to get married. She was very nice to everyone she met, and the people of Isiala loved her because of her generosity and her kindness to everyone. As the years passed, Ngozi became richer. Her businesses thrived. She even opened up a hairdressing workshop where women came to learn her craft. She started attending church too. She had asked her father, Mazindoka, to come live with her in Isiala, but her father had refused, said it was not right for him to abandon his heritage. When her father turned 85, Ngozi threw him a grand party in Alocha. She invited all and sundry. The villagers came to celebrate Papandoka, as they fondly called him. Ngozi had turned 55 at the time. Her friends and age grade in Alocha were surprised to see how well she was doing. Some of them were genuinely happy for her. Others were enviously saying that she was shamelessly sleeping with men in Isiala to make money. They didn't believe that it was possible for a woman to make all that money from hairdressing. Obiageli, her best friend, was at the party too. Ngozi was very glad to see her, but was heartbroken to see the suffering and poverty written all over her face. As it happened, Obiageli had lost her husband years ago. Her husband's people had taken over her husband's property and left her with nothing, just because she had only female children for him. Obiageli had moved back to live with her poor mother. Ngozi promised to help her get back on her feet. Time had passed, and Ngozi had turned 58 and still not married. She already accepted her fate a long time ago. Once she did that, she was able to find peace, happiness, and fulfillment in the other areas of her life where God had blessed her. She used her wealth wisely, helping people in need and all around her. Apart from hairdressing, she had two big shops where she sold hair accessories and extensions, and customers would travel from towns and villages around to Isiala to buy in bulk from her. One day, she was in her salon attending to her clients when a man and a young lady walked in. The salon was fully booked. All the stylists were busy, so Ngozi offered to dress the young lady's hair personally. Her name was Bernice. She was a very pleasant young lady, and instantly she took a liking to Ngozi. The man who had dropped her earlier at the salon was her father. Her mother was a white American. Her father had insisted on bringing her to Africa to know and learn more of her heritage. Hours later, her father came back to the salon to pick her up. Bernice introduced Ngozi to her father. He was a very handsome and polite man. He complimented Ngozi on her handwork and her looks, of course. Ngozi had been taking very good care of herself, and you will hardly believe she was 58 years. She looked younger and good looking for her age. 8 months had passed since Bernice introduced Ngozi to her father, Mr. Emeka. They had become good friends and were even dating. You see, Emeka was royalty. He was the third son of Igwe Oranze, the late king of Isiala. But unlike his older brothers, Emeka had lived a good part of his life in the US. He had engaged a white lady, but they were never married. They broke up after 5 years of their relationship and with one daughter later. Ngozi and Emeka became good friends and soon started dating. At 59 years, she was not thinking of marriage. In fact, she had accepted that she was not supposed to get married in her lifetime. It was a shock and one of the happiest days of her life when Emeka proposed marriage. Ngozi was reluctant initially, but after she spoke to her father, who encouraged her to give it another chance, she accepted his proposal and the date was fixed. She had prayed and believed that this time the story would be different, and it was. And so, 2 days after Ngozi turned 60, her wedding ceremony to Emeka held in Alocha. It was beautiful and grand. Her friends and clients from Isiala were present to celebrate with her. The people of Alocha were present too. Papa Ndoka, who was 90 years old at the time, lived to witness his daughter and only child get married to a wonderful man who loved and respected her. Ngozi felt blessed beyond measures, blessed with a man who adored her, and even better was the gift of a stepdaughter who loved and adored her too. Lessons to learn from this story. Delay is not denial. What will be, will be. I know the thoughts I have for you, saith the Lord, thoughts of good, to bring you to an expected end. Jeremiah 29:11. Thank you so much for listening to this story today. If you enjoyed it, then leave me a like and let me know what you thought about the story or what you took away from the story.